This workout will start out by doing all three exercises on the same side before transitioning to the other side. So we'll start with single hand swings. When you're using one bell, you don't have to assume as wide of a stance as you do with a double bell exercise. So try to adopt a more narrow foot position, so that way we can work on better alignment when we get into that hinge position. Um, so maybe about shoulder width apart is going to be ideal. From there. Here, hips are back. We want to get as much into that hinge position as possible when we're doing the swings. A lot of people try to like start down like this. Encourage or really try to look for this almost vertical shin here with this straight spine. So if we can start out like that, then we can drive into that posterior pelvic tilt from this version, from that starting position, and then our hinge just becomes uh, a repeat of that. So we're going hinge to posterior pelvic tilt, trying to keep that neutral spine along the way instead of having these leakages where we do this kind of cyclical swing. So as much as possible, let's encourage those shins to stay vertical or near vertical so that our hips are having to do a posterior shift, anterior pelvic tilt to get into that hinge position. And then from there, you can just watch the spine and try to make sure that we've got that abdominal retraction when we go into the hinge, and then it stays in retraction when we come into that hip extension. So we're not getting some form of lumbar flexion, lumbar extension type of deal going on. The people who complain about like all of this back stuff going on when they're doing multiple swings are they going to be the people that you really need to look for with that. Make sure they're not losing that retraction from that position. So single hand swings, right? Get those knees back. And then from there, we drive into the hip extension. Again, we're going posterior pelvic shift, anterior tilt, and then driving into that neutral pelvis hip extension. So after the swings, we'll go clean, raise, press. From the side, you'll see when I take this bell down, I don't want to cast the bell out, drop it down, pop the hips, bring back to the shoulder. Everything should stay relatively close to the side. Once I have the bell cleaned, I'm going to let that bell rest on my bicep. I'm going to do that lateral raise, bring the elbow back down so my forearm is vertical. From there, I'm pressing up. Notice there's no change in the lower body when we're doing this press. The arm is going to come either to or beside or behind the ear, right? The elbow doesn't have to lock out. You can keep that elbow straight so you don't put any stress on that aconius in the elbow joint. We come back down here again, drop it down, reclean, raise, back to vertical forearm, back to your overhead press, really engaging the glutes, keeping that staying in a neutral position, abdominal muscles retracted as you go through this. From there, we'll hinge it down. Again, we don't change the angle of the spine. Hips are back. You got a little load on those hamstrings. We're going to start with an abdominal, or sorry, a retraction of the shoulder. From there, we'll extend the elbow back in line with the spine here, and then we'll come back down. So start with that retraction and then come into the row here. Should feel not only the muscles in between the shoulder blades, but also the lats engage as we do this row, all while keeping that neutral spine.